went to school, Columbia Road Primary School in Bethnal Green. Was always up to no, always fighting at school. You know, I mean, it was a sort of daily occurrence. Got picked to go to Arsenal, and I was at Arsenal for just over a year, but really sort of didn't have the best of attitude. You know, you'd have the likes of Lenny McLean going up there. It was tough as nails. You know, it was literally wars in the gym every session. You know?
Well, that's how it happens in this game.
Frank Warren was my manager, but Victor Andretti, to all intents and purposes, the best coach you will ever have will be yourself, if you're honest.
Well, hello there and welcome to episode 8 of Talking Life here on the Jake Murphy Media YouTube channel. And to my right-hand side, I am joined by Craig Edwards. Obviously, you know who Craig is. He's the current Cheshunt manager. But we're not talking about his football today. We're talking about his days before football when he was in the boxing ring. So I guess the first question really, Craig, is we can see Boog written on the bottom of your profile. Explain that nickname for us.
Actually came from one of my boys, you know, when he was a teenager and that, and he seems to have stuck. And that's all the kids all call me it, grandkids call me it. And so Boogie, you know, all that sort of thing. But yeah, so that actually came up. I should have put my name, but that actually came up automatically when I clicked in, but you know, it's what it is. But yeah, it'd be actually to let Ola Williams, who thinks he's the original Boogie, but he ain't. He plays for me. That this was long before he was even thought of.
So obviously we're going to take you back. So let's take you back to your school days. Where did you kind of grow up, and where did you first find that passion for boxing?
Funny enough, it sort of went in a full circle. I went to school, Columbia Road Primary School in Bethnal Green, and then the family moved to Hackney, and I went to Orchard School, and then went to Upton House. But it was all football then, all football and cricket. Funny enough, because I did really love me cricket, you know. And in the summers, that was all I would do, play cricket. And I mean, was always up to no, always fighting at school. You know, I mean, it was a sort of daily occurrence, particularly in my primary school. When I went to my secondary school, the kids seemed to be twice as big, you know. So I had to catch them up before I had too many tear-ups with them. But primary school, you know, it was just a thing. I don't know if it was the area we was in or whatever, but we used to be fighting all the time. And so that was, but that wasn't, obviously it's not boxing, but that was the sort of backdrop of it. But football was always, you know, my first love, and you know, I played a good level of football all through me child sort of thing in teenage years, and that culminated in, you know, I got when I was at Upton House and playing for Hackney, I got picked to go to Arsenal, and I was at Arsenal for just over a year, but really sort of didn't have the best of attitudes. Going to the bus stop 236 to go training 3 times a week, and it'd be raining. All my mates would be round the flats, you know, mucking about, playing with the girls in it. And I should say, a lot of time I think sod this and go back. I mean, my attitude, really, really, truly, football, boxing, whatever, it weren't the best. I was a bit of a little scallywag, and yeah, so that ended, and I got offered an apprenticeship at West Brom, and I thought, I ain't going to Birmingham, no way, you know, and I thought I'll wait for another London club to come in, but he never did, you know. And then Laurie Leslie, who was the ex-Scotland and West Ham goalkeeper, he took me over to Leytonstone, who would have been in the what would be the equivalent of the conference now. And funny enough, John Steele was running the reserves here, and I stayed there for a season. and then basically that's when I really got into boxing, because I always dabbled with it because the family were always involved. You know, I was sort of working down Spitalfields, and and all my family were there, and it was so much boxing. You know, there was so many fighters down there. And I started going up the gym with my mate, and actually went to a pro gym before I went to an amateur gym, which you weren't supposed to do at those days. But I used to go up Vicky Andretti, who was an ex-porter himself and a really good family friend, and train up there. And you know, you'd have the likes of Lenny McLean going up there, and all these type of characters, you know. And with that, I got into it, and so I started boxing for St Monica's in Oxton, and it was unbelievably tough gym. You know, it was a real spitting sawdust gym. It was actually above the it was a Churchill in St Monica Square, and it wasn't really cultured as such. I mean, everyone who went up there was tough as nails. You know, it was literally wars in the gym every session. You know, what you call sort of sparring. It was actually, you know, and he's funny enough, me trainer Mickey Pike used to tell me, he'd put me in sometimes with heavyweights. He said, try and knock him out, do everything you can to knock him out. But I would say that I don't think you've ever seen an atmosphere like for boxing as the amateur fights at St Monica's. I mean, I think it held about 300, 400, and there'd be 1,000 in there, and it would be the atmosphere was incredible, you know, and it was really hostile. Yeah. Funny enough, he used to come to all the fights, Lenny, you know, and there was some real, because it was a tough area, and there was some real characters used to come, and it was a great place to box. But I'd done really well, funny enough, at St Monica's, and but then someone asked me to go over to West Ham, and you know, and I thought, cool, you know, because it was them in Repton were the clubs, you know, and I didn't, you know, I always sort of thought to myself why I you know, I never went to Repton, because I had some right ding dongs with it. I never lost to a Repton boy, and I think it was perhaps because they were our local rivals. They were a much bigger club. And when we fought at Repton, because I suppose in a way it's like your Arsenal, Tottenham rivalries, all that sort of thing. And I didn't want to go to the rivals. Although I got on, you know, very well with Tony Burns, you know, who sadly passed away last week. He was a great trainer. But I went to West Ham, and it was totally different. I mean, they had the likes of Mark Caylor, Mo was saying, Paul Cook up there, and the sparring was unbelievable. But really and truthfully, they had to teach me from the real basics of boxing. Whereas we was all tearaways at St Monica's, you know, just real hard fighters. But they were really they were known for the skill. They're skillful fighters, and they had, you know, Dave Woodward and Jimmy Tibbs, you know. Great trainers, you know, and they taught me so much, and I loved my time there. You know, I really enjoyed it. And then Victor asked me to turn pro. I'd only been boxing for 2 years. No, tell like 3 years. 3 years. I had a couple of years at St Monica's and a year at West Ham.
Yeah.
You know, and because he couldn't. They wouldn't give him a license, Victor, because he'd been in and out of prison and that. You know, I signed with Frank Warren, and used to go up to his gym and that. But all the time, I mean, this is I was about 19, 20, and really bad attitude for a fighter. You know, I mean, I didn't live the life. I didn't look after myself nearly well enough. And up there, it was all world champions, and I had that same thing that I had at St Monica's, where every sparring session, particularly on Sundays, it was like they used to invite, you know, all the public in Sundays, and I'd always approach sparring like it was a fight, you know. And I mean, a couple of times it spilled over, particularly with Sylvester Mitty, who I used to spar with hundreds of rounds. And you know, that's how it was. And Ernie Fossey, because we had so many champions up there, and he used to say to me, Ernie, that, you know, he'd get me up there because he felt 3 rounds sparring with me was like 6 rounds with anyone else, you know. But I didn't live the life to, if you like, do well enough or as well as I should have done with the fighting. It was very in and out. You know, if I'd basically someone who was a walk forward fighter like me and had a tear up, then I'd do very well. But against if you like, the taller, rangier boxers or people that move around, and I got lazy, I'd lose fights, and it bugged me. And to this day, I think to myself, how could I have lost? No disrespect, how could I have lost to him? You know, I beat some good fighters and I lose, and it was happening too much. And you know, and plus I got cut a good few times, and that used to that even to this day, I mean, I think is such a pathetic rule. It'll have on your record like lost, rest, stop, fight. I mean, there was one lad who I fought at Bloomsbury, and I put him down 3 times. I must have won every round, and at the end of the 5th round, he's like, as he's come up, he's caught me in my eye, split open. I had 18 stitches. I had one round to go. It was only a 6-rounder, and you know, they stopped the fight, and he went down as ref stop fight 5th round, and I thought, how can that be right? It can't be right. But you know, so you know, whether they're excuses or whatever, I don't know. But I didn't make the best of it. Same as me football, you know. And it's funny because I remember a story. We was going to a game. I think I was at Billericay at the time, and I had 2 young players who both did well in a non-league game, probably not as well as they should have done, like Evans Kouassi and Sean Bonnet Johnson. They was coming to the game with me. I think we was playing Hampton away. We're driving over there, and you know, anyone who's played with me, they know that I'm pretty strict with things, you know, like a code of conduct, and you know, I'm really, really strict with the boys. And we was talking, and I was telling them sort of similar story to what I'm telling you now, and about, you know, what a scallywag I was, and I was not really, my teenage years, I was no good at all, you know. And they said, we thought you'd be right straight down the line and really disciplined and organised. I said, no. I said, and you know, it happens to a lot of people. Your career finishes, whether you're a footballer, cricketer, boxer, whatever, and you think, I've wasted it. You know, I've really wasted my time. And I said, there's nothing, and it stuck with me because, ironically, the biggest lesson I ever got from boxing was right at the end of my career, but I'll go into that. But it was, I hate people who waste their talent, you know, and I'm really hard on boys. And I've tried to explain to some of the boys that the ones, if I'm particularly hard on boys, it's because I can see that they've got so much they can achieve and they can do better. If there's someone who I'm thinking, well, they're not going to make it, they're not going to do well, they can't go any better, then I ain't really, there's nothing I can really say to them in that way, you know. But I want boys to achieve the best they can, you know. And funny enough, it was right towards the end of my career, and I was training a gym in Dagenham. I'd moved out this way, and with Graham Matton, and you know, I was up there, and I was basically coming towards the end of my career, and they had some really good young fighters come up there. I mean, Colin McMillan and Nigel Ben just started up there, and I used to spar with Nigel and that. And now I was at the end of my career, and Nigel had just turned pro, and I watched him train, and I've never seen anyone since, or you know, who worked as hard. He was like a machine, and I thought, this boy's going to go all the way to the top, you know. And he was so focused. And when people ask me about what makes a player, you know, of all the boys that we've had that have gone on to play pro football, you know, what's the main characteristic they've had? And it's that real desire and single-mindedness and this, whether it's boxing, football, cricket, unless you are supremely talented, and even then, I don't think it's enough. You've got to work hard, and he taught me just that one session. I wish I'd have been a pro turning with him, so I could learn me lesson.
Yeah.
Beginning at, because I thought, well, that's what it takes. That's what it takes to get to the top. And with all due respect, I just pissed about with it, with me football and me boxing. Don't get me wrong, I loved every minute of it, but I loved it in a way, a lot of the way, for the wrong reasons, because I love playing football. I love fighting, and but I didn't dedicate myself to any of it, and it was, and then when the boxing finished, I remember my last fight, funny enough, and was top of the bill at Lewisham Town Hall, southern area eliminator, and the boy, I was supposed to be fighting someone called what was his name? It was to fight Rocky Kelly, the winner. Sid Smith, I think it was. And, and I was so up for it anyway, but he got Rocky Kelly's opponent pulled out. He got a straight fight, Sid Smith. And I felt really confident. And then they brought a lad in from Birmingham, Gary Flair. He was a young kid, had a great record, to be fair. And I thought I was going to absolutely destroy him, and, and at the weigh-in, I just felt so confident. I went out and basically blew a gasket after 2.5, 3 rounds. And at the end of the 5th round, I came back and I had absolutely nothing left. And I don't know, and I thought, God, I've got another 4 or 5 rounds to go. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. But I did. And they gave it to him by half a point, which is 1 round. But I thought he won it by a mile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I went back in the dressing room afterwards, and I always had big support, all the Oxon crowd, the family, all that sort of come. They'd always come. And I was in the dressing room and I was desperate. I was really so disappointed. And, uncles and all that, my cousins, get your head up, you go again, blah, blah, blah. I said, no. I said, I felt like an old man tonight. And Victor, he turned around to me, he said, no, you didn't, son. He said, you felt like an old woman. And so that was basically it, and so I went in, like, sort of had a break, and I was working down Spitalfields, like I say, still sort of doing a bit down there with, even though I was boxing. And one of my uncles said, come and have a game with the market team. And they used to play on a Thursday afternoon. So I said, all right, so I played them, and then I got a call. One of the boys who was playing for the market team was playing for the Shakespeare on a Sunday in the Forest and District League, which was a really good league at the time, for a Sunday league. I mean, there was pros playing. It was a real tough league, a lot of fit boys and everything else. And they had a Wednesday team that used to play in the Wednesday London Cup. And I played for them, and then one of my mates at the Shakespeare, and Billy Roach, he got me playing for Pennant.
Okay.
He asked me to go over there and play for them. So I was playing Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and if we had a midweek game at Saturday, and then Sundays I was playing for the Shakespeare. And then my uncle, who was in goal for the market team, he said to me, come and play for this team in the Jewish League on a Sunday afternoon. I said, Joe, I ain't doing that. So I'm playing all this football. And he said, they give you 50 quid a game. So I said, all right then. And it was, the standard weren't great, but, it was picking up a few quid. And so I was actually playing for 4 or 5 teams. And, obviously that didn't last too long. But coming back, I just couldn't get enough of the football. It's where I ain't played for sort of 10 years, and it was just great to play again. And I was playing for basically everyone. So But funny enough, the one with the Shakespeare, you talk about like roughing. We had a semi-final away to East Street Market in the London midweek. And I went over there, and they said, "Oh, it always kicks up with us, us against East London and South London." He said that, and they were saying about they played them over Victoria Park the year before, and there was all sorts going on. They got Lenny McLean over there, and there was all sorts of characters. And when we went over to East Street, it was this little ground on its own, and there was Range Rovers all parked down the side. There was blokes with Rottweilers all on the. When you talk about intimidating atmosphere, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
We beat 3-0, and went in the dressing room and said, "Listen, whatever happens, we're in the bar. Whatever happens." So we went in the bar. That was as good as gold. It was like proper old school. You have your game, kick lumps out of each other, and then have a beer with each other. So
yeah. So
that's right. I mean, so yeah, that's me waffling on it. That lot.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem at all. So basically, what you've essentially done is kind of done my job for me and gone through like a
Sorry,
path. That's right, a path of your boxing career, which I'm sure people are going to enjoy. So let's kind of take it and go back into steps throughout your career. So
Yeah.
obviously, you mentioned during that you signed up through Frank Warren, but you also had managers such as Victor Andrietti and Graham Moulton. And something that's quite interesting as well is people know you as Craig Edwards, but you fought under the name Billy Edwards. So why was that?
Well, there was a fighter named Craig Edwards in Manchester, and he, when as a boxer, you couldn't, when you went pro, you couldn't have two, it's like, I suppose, a trading name. You had to have different names. And my middle name's like Billy or William, so that was the logical thing. That was the family name, but they kept ballsing up the records, which pissed me off a little bit. And they had the Bigfoot boxing yearbook used to come out, and I looked at it, and there was fights mixed up between this Craig Edwards and my fights, and that, and no disrespects, but he didn't do that well. You know what I mean? So it wasn't. I remember I bumped into a couple of Banjo brothers years ago, and they said about we was having a chat, and I said, no, that wasn't me. I swear to God, that wasn't me. But it is what it is. But that's why I had to change my name. So yeah.
Yeah, so that obviously makes sense as to why, but looking for Craig Edwards or Billy Edwards, you don't really get much information in terms of fights and records.
You do if you go back to the 1800s.
Yeah, you do if you go back to the 1800s. However, there is one fight which we was going to put before the end of your career, but we can do it now. It's going to be about 5 minutes, but this is actually your fight that we've got footage from against Harwood. So let's just refresh your memories on those ones.
Welcome back. We're now to a light welterweight contest between Steve Harwood of Leeds and Billy Edwards of London. It was Harwood's 21st birthday tonight. Would he celebrate with a win, or would Edwards spoil it? So it's at the light welterweight limit, that's the 10-stone division. It's only 2-minute duration. Steve Harwood from Leeds and Billy Edwards from London, and the Yorkshire lads in the red trunks. We've had Billy Edwards on the Fight Night series before. He defeated Vince Bailey at Big Death recently. Hard-looking nut. Going with Vince Bailey, he looked a bit useful. Glove it would look like Harwood, but connection. There's a bit of blood now cut already, Edwards. Don't know when that could have happened, Jim.
Well, it's obviously punches, haven't there? And head clashes, yeah, so it must have been a couple of uppercuts Harwood just thrown.
It's on the left cheek, a bit unusual. such a thing as a good touch, and I suppose the second should be able to work on that all right. It's well away from trouble.
Yeah, it's below the eye too, so even if it does need a bit, it's not going to interfere with his vision or anything else. But nobody likes to be cut, especially in the first round. There's a bit of swelling too, which is going to cause the cut to open and look worse. If the swelling gets any worse, it's possible the referee would have to stop the fight, even though it's not interfering with it.
The thing is, Edwards' left eye, if you remember, Jim, was injured in the Bailey fight, so he's quite used to it.
That's right, that's right.
Goes to call Dick Andretti. I think he's going to call the referee over. He doesn't want to take care of that. And they're arguing in the corner, but Vic, an ex-boxer, is probably saying, I don't think you should box on with that. A little bit of compassion there from the manager. But Red Brennan, his trainer, is just trying to put a 2-8 in there. They may be using up the minute of the round. There's Victor Andretti, former champion. But I think he's letting the boxer have his way here. He wasn't very keen on letting him come out for the second. That's unusual, Jim, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unusual, but maybe, I don't know the fighter personally, but maybe just one of these guys said, you maybe not see him for 6 months if you stop a fight in the first round. Maybe he's one of these proud fellas and Vic's maybe going to give him a round or two to see if he can turn the table.
Well, some of us boxing fellas are proud fellas. Yeah, there he goes, running off his second round, and he's really going to have a go here, Edwards, because I suppose he figures, oh, he did, he stood him on his head with that left hook. There it is again. That's the way to come out firing. And Harwood back in trouble. He's done the right kick there, going down and taking the count. If he gets it any time, they don't have mandatory counts here. Referee waves play on, although you could hardly call this play. And Edwards is not missing him with the left hook. What a way to come out firing again.
You know, I've got to respect this kind of courage. He's made up his mind what he wants to do and he's getting on with it. Good left hooks, every one of them. Harwood is very little defence. He's very open. He hands it down all the time.
He really takes him half there as he went down. He wobbled. Oh, referee's had a quick look at him. Let him go on. It's only 2-minute rounds, remember. If he can hang on for dear life here, he might be okay. But Edwards is really, he's got to stop it now, surely. Yes, it's all over. What a turnaround that was. It really was. Billy Edwards from London looking all over, and definitely the manager there, Victor Andretti, did not want it to go on. But Red Brennan there used it to Aguilar, said, come on, let's try one more round, and the kid gave it all he's got. And there's manager Trevor Callaghan saying, well, that's how it happens in this game. Have a look at some replay there. You can see easily there where the lad's cut up. But this is Pearson, when he comes charging in right at us with the camera there, he's pinning Harwood in the corner, and he really is buckling under that firepower, and I can understand that.
Well, what a turnaround in those 2 rounds, and what a good win for Edwards.
So obviously, so obviously we've watched that fight, and of course, for those that may not have heard the name, first of all, that was your fight against Harwood. Now, you looked down and beaten, and you come back, and you literally ran after him in that final round to start. Just take us back to who was your manager at that time, what were your thoughts in that fight, and what kind of stage you was within your professional boxing career?
It was... well, Frank Warren was my manager, but Victor Andretti, to all intents and purposes, you know, I mean, Victor was my man, but like I say, they wouldn't give him a license. So I was with Frank, but I took that fight sort of night before. You know, they said to me, "Do you want to fight?" It was up in Halifax, and we went up there and got the train up there. And I'll never forget, we got a bit delayed and got there basically half hour before the show was going to start. And then a couple of fights had gone pretty quickly, and I just couldn't get myself going. I was so sluggish. So I had a cold shower, went for a little light jog, and I was just so flat, I couldn't get going at all. And I reckon there's every likelihood that if he hadn't have cut me and Victor really wanted to pull me out, that I might well have gone on to lose that on points. You know, I might have, but it gave me these, if you like, the shake up that I needed, you know, and it was sort of symptomatic of a lot of my fights, really. That if I got comfortable, I got lazy with it, you know, but I needed that sort of that challenge, yeah, and so it was. I'm glad you picked a good one, but you should have told me. I would have got you a better topic.
I took that from your YouTube channel, I believe. We've obviously gone through your boxing career in like the kind of fine points, and obviously watched that fight. So I guess to kind of almost summarise the boxing side of your career, and maybe we'll come back and do a football one within the next few weeks or so. You mentioned that when you was at Arsenal, you mentioned when you was a boxer that your attitude wasn't the best. Do you feel that later on, whether that be that you've maybe done some boxing coaching unofficially, or as a football coach, obviously that we know you do, that comes across to your players that don't make the same mistakes I did? And do you think that if you had a better attitude, you would have made it further in either football or boxing?
Yeah, I do. You know, I mean, whether I'm deluded or whatever, I just think I was a lot better in both sports than what I achieved. You know, and the same as cricket. You know, I thought I was a very good cricketer, but never done anything really with it. And the boxing, I mean, with all due respect, I mean, if you sort of, like I say, I mean, Warren at the time, he was before Ern came along. He was the main man, and everyone going up his gym was basically champions. And I got in I can't think of any fighter, you know, at the time, and there was all British champions, stroke world champions, European champions, and there's only one person I can remember getting in the ring with who really sort of, if you like, schooled me. You know, I'd sparred hundreds of rounds with Terry Marsh, with Sylvester Mitty, Jimmy Price, all great fighters at the time, and would always more than hold me own. And like I say, they were pretty intense those sessions. I mean, with Sylvie, I mean, it kicked off a couple of times after, you know, where it got, you know, really sort of narky. But I remember once I went up there with and Pat Cowdell had come down from Birmingham, and he was lighter than me. He was only sort of lightweight, something like that. And I got in the ring with him, and the fella never missed a shot. And it wasn't what I'd call an hard punch. He was a real stinging puncher. And it was and I was really, I got out of the ring. I'd done 3 rounds with him, and I was really, really disappointed. But then Terry Marsh got in the ring. You know, he was a world champion, Terry, and I thought Pat done exactly the same to him. So he was a fantastic fighter, you know, and it's the best I ever got in the ring with. You know, and like I said, I got in with some. I had Zuma Nelson when he came over, who was world champion, and you know, but I thought Pat Cowdell, you know, and like anyone that tells you in boxing, it's all about styles. But you know, he just he schooled me. He did, you know, and So I mean, I mean, it's I suppose life. You know, you learn your lessons, and you try to do better. And you know, like I say, from the Nigel Benn experience, that and perhaps with my boys growing up, and I got into the football coaching, and then I sort of, whether I did sort of without sort of really thinking about it, I was tough on my boys, you know, that, you know, I want them to achieve. In touch with, they're all doing well, you know, so I wanted them to achieve the best they could. I didn't want them to make my mistakes, and I've taken that into my management career, and I think it's held me in good stead, because probably the only thing I can really be proud of, aside from, you know, my businesses and things like that, you know, but in a sporting thing is me, managing football clubs. And the reason I think that I've done very well managing is because of the lessons I learned from my own failings, in my own disappointments, in how I let myself down. And, he won't thank me for saying it, but I had a player, 3 or 4 clubs with me, Ricky Sappleton, unbelievable talent. He's just turned 30, and there'll come a day with Ricky, and I've told him it, that he'll just think, well, I wasted my career, because he's got fantastic talent. He should still be playing at a really good level, fantastic lad, but for different reasons to me, he's just he's very, very laid back and doesn't drive himself enough. But with me, it wasn't I was laid back. It was just that I had a crap attitude. And so, it is what it is, and you live and learn.
Well, thank you for your time, Craig. It's obviously been an eye-opening experience to obviously somewhat of your boxing career, but to summarize, and a bit of your football as well, especially the early days. But to summarise this podcast, what's your 3 tips to anyone in any sport on how to be their best and achieve their best?
Well, obviously you've got to have the love for the game. It's no use someone who hasn't got that real love for the game to go out and but give it your best shot. And if you make it to, I don't know, the Essex Senior League or Art Senior League, and that's the best level you can play and you enjoy it, fantastic, great. You've done your best, but make sure you never regret anything. And you'd be surprised how far you can go if you really push yourself, and listen. And I always tell my players, and I would say to the boxers, cricketers, all that the best coach you will ever have will be yourself, if you're honest. If you're honest, if you kid yourself, if you come away from a game, start blaming other people, if you've had a fight, my trainer this or this, that, they all, I see so many fighters that when they've lost a fight or anything, they sack their trainer. It's always the trainer. It's never them. Look at yourself. I go into when we've lost a game on a Saturday, I go into my office, and the first person I'll think about is myself. Did I pick the right side? Did we prepare properly? How we did. And I ask my players to do the same. Look at yourself. If you look at yourself and you're honest, you'll be the best coach you ever had. If you don't, if you're dishonest with yourself, you'll be the worst coach you've ever had. And and just keep that drive, stay positive, and hopefully you'll achieve what you can do. There's no worse feeling in the world than living with regrets when it's too late to do anything about it.
Well, that's extremely wise words, Craig. So, as always, thanks to everyone who's watched this. This has been the Talking Life episode 8 with Craig Edwards and myself, Jake Murphy, sponsored by the Bespoke Recruitment Construction Logistics Division. By the time you guys see this, if you're watching it when I upload, it will be Friday evening. So have a great weekend. Until next time, goodbye.
Cheers, Jake.